Unlocking the Book of Psalms, shocking secrets revealed for every beginner right now. The night was electric, crackling with the whispers of the unseen. In a dimly lit corner of the old library, shadows moved as if alive, swirling around the ancient texts that held the secrets of the universe. A breath caught in the throat of every onlooker, each person gripping a chair, eyes wide, hearts pounding with anticipation. Tonight was the night they would learn about the Book of Psalms, an ordinary book with extraordinary powers. Did it really hold the key to miracles? Was there a promise of fortune buried within its verses? The librarian, a ghostly figure draped in shadows, opened the book with a flourish, revealing delicate pages worn from the weight of confession and prayer. Each leaf radiated an energy: grief, love, pain, all emotions carved into time. Incredibly, beneath the poetic language, they said, lies a map to hidden truths. Hushed gasps erupted from the crowd as they felt the pull of those words. Was that a faint glow? Could it be the breath of the divine? And then, just when the tension hung thick, a soft thud echoed from behind a shelf. Everyone turned, breath hitching, adrenaline igniting. What was that? Eyes darted from face to face, confusion rippling through the crowd. The air felt heavy, scented with curiosity mingled with fear. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As a collective gasp escaped, the librarian's fingers trembled above the page, fingertips tingling with a sensation that felt almost otherworldly. What had been unearthed? Was it a secret, or a curse, something waiting just beneath the surface? Each hand clenched tighter around the edges of the bookshelves, a low murmur cascading through the crowd. Those words, the Psalms, dated back centuries. How many lives had been changed? How many souls had been healed or damned by the phrases written in dark ink? A flicker of hope shone through the doubt, a desire to understand the mysteries hiding between the lines. But just as quickly, the moments slipped away. Something rustled, a book cascaded to the floor with a deafening crack. Silence descended like a thick blanket, suffocating in its intensity. All eyes gravitated to the spot. What was it that fell? Was it a secret left for them to find? Or was it a warning to stay away? In the stillness, one question lingered, vibrating with urgency. What other shocking secrets did the Book of Psalms hold? The librarian tilted her head, eyes narrowing, scanning the dimness where the book had fallen. It was a book of prophets, its spine cracked and worn. Had it been there all along? The crowd shifted, an exhale rippling through the gathering, fear blending with the flickering candlelight. Stay back! A voice shot out from the throng, slicing through the tension. It was Sarah, a regular patron of the library, her heart racing, hands trembling with dread. What if it's cursed? Murmurs erupted, each word laced with apprehension. What if this unexplained noise was a sign? What if this night foretold more than just revelations in scripture? The librarian's lips parted, a ghost of a smile playing on her face, only she seemed unfazed. She gestured for silence, curiosity gleaming in her eyes, almost daring anyone to challenge the unfolding mystery. What's this about curses? Someone queried, half terrified, half curious. Well, it's said that those who dig too deep might unearth more than they bargained for, the librarian replied, her voice low and rich like aged wine. Apprehension dripped from every word, wrapping around the audience like a thick fog. Suddenly, with a deliberate slowness, she bent down, reaching for the fallen book. Fingers brushed the dust of history, and an electric jolt surged through her as she touched the cover. The crow-like shadows in the corners seemed to twitch, alive with arcane energy. She whispered something, a name that seemed to curl around the group like tendrils of smoke. Beelzebub. A gasp echoed, each person feeling that word wrap around them like an iron vice. What was the connection between the haunting figure they conjured and the sacred texts lying before them? She opened the book, the fragile pages fluttering like the wings of trapped birds. Listen! Her voice rose above the low murmuring of voices. These words may hold the key or they may open a door to chaos. As she spoke, shadows flickered wildly along the walls, and a gust of wind, unnatural and sudden, swept through the library. Candles flickered, nearly extinguishing as if the very atmosphere held its breath. The sense of something profound about to emerge surged through the crowd, igniting a wild cocktail of hope and fear. "Is this really happening?" whispered a young man at the edge of the group, clutching a nearby shelf for support. "Oh, it's happening," the librarian intoned, a dark gleam in her eye. "And it might just change the fabric of reality, as you know it." Her emphasis on might sent waves of cold dread crashing over the audience. Were they mere spectators? Or were they entangled in a fate they never asked for? And then, as if the universe itself had been waiting for the right moment, a loud crash erupted from the back of the room. A bookshelf toppled over, books scattering like leaves in a tempest. In the chaotic swirl of paper and wood, an oversized tome remained unopened, a stark contrast against the chaos around it. "Get back!" the librarian shouted, pushing forward, her own fear momentarily overshadowed by a desperate need to protect the secrets housed in the library. All eyes turned toward the fallen tome. What if the next revelation bore a terrifying truth? Each heartbeat echoed in their ears like a clock ticking down to disaster. Were they willing to risk it all? What lay within that untouched book? As they approached the wreckage, a chilling realization hit them: the power they sought to understand could just as easily consume them. The flickering shadows stretched, whispering secrets that only the brave dared to uncover. What dark force awaited them in the pages of the book? And what price would they pay to know the secrets of the Psalms? The librarian's heart raced as she stepped closer, the air thick with electricity and anticipation. Each breath felt heavier, laden with unspoken fears. What lay within the fallen tome could reshape their reality, unraveling everything they thought they understood. The crowd held its collective breath, eyes flickering between the librarian and the massive book. Shadows danced on the walls, casting grotesque shapes that promised horrors unseen. "No!" Sarah cried, her voice breaking the silence as she stepped forward, the candlelight catching her pale face. "We shouldn't open it. We don't know what will happen." But the librarian's resolve had hardened. The truth is often shrouded in darkness. She reached down, fingertips brushing the cover, feeling the cool leather beneath her skin. With a slow, deliberate motion, she lifted it. The sound of her breath caught in the sudden stillness, a pendulum in time. The book groaned open, pages fluttering wildly, as if begging to be set free. A damp, musty scent wafted into the air, mingling with the acrid smell of fear hanging thickly, almost sour. Words etched in old ink glistened like wet stones, the language swirling into a stream of dark promises and cryptic messages. "Can you hear that?" one man whispered, gripping the edge of a nearby table. It was a low chant, a rhythmic thrum that resonated from the pages, each word echoing in the back of their minds. "Is it speaking to us?" someone else asked, dread lacing their tone. "It's inviting us," the librarian said, her voice almost a caress, an oddly comforting lull in the surrounding chaos. And then a single word erupted from the depths of the book, clear and commanding, like a cannon blast: "Awaken!" The ground beneath them trembled. Candle flames flickered violently, and an unseen force pushed back against the crowd, knocking several patrons off balance. Panic flared, igniting wide eyes and frantic whispers, drowning out the singular command still echoing through their minds. "Hold on!" the librarian shouted, a steely tone taking over her voice. "Stay together!" Her presence seemed to anchor them as she steadied her grip on the tome, the shadows swirling almost protectively around her. The walls of the library began to twist and bend, reality warping like an old film strip caught in a projector. Books flew from their places, spiraling around them like birds frightened from their nests. A strange, pulsating light emerged from the core of the open book, bathing the room in an unsettling glow. "It's calling for us," the young man murmured again, stepping closer despite the chaos. Fear intermingled with curiosity. pulling him forward uncontrollably. "Stop!" Sarah cried, lunging out, grasping his arm. "You can't! Wherever it leads, it's not safe." But her voice was drowned out by the clamorous pull of mystery that beckoned everyone closer. "Then who will protect us?" The librarian shot back, her voice steady with an authority that belied her own growing uncertainty. As the light grew brighter, shadows screeched in protest, and the librarian's expression hardened. "This is not just about us anymore." She thrust the book closer, the energy seeping into the air around them. "We are summoned! We must answer!" As if in response, the oppressive weight of a chilling presence enveloped them. The book's light pulsated in time with their quickening heartbeats, the library itself becoming alive, breathing with a deep and ancient hunger. "What happens next?" someone murmured, doubt sparking in their eyes. The uncertainty in the air thickened, heavy as lead. "Only those willing to face the darkness can find the light," the librarian replied, a fierce determination settling in her gaze. "Are you willing to take the leap?" Just as the light surged, blinding them all momentarily, a thought stung through Sarah's mind. What if the truth they sought was more monstrous than they imagined? And then they were all plunged into a darkness deeper than the shadows, with echoes of an unknown fate whispering through the silence. What awaited them on the other side? Would they emerge enlightened? Or shattered? The answer lurked in the shadows, as whispers began to crawl back into their minds. The darkness swallowed them whole, an abyss that felt alive. The air crackled around them, thick with the weight of anticipation and dread. Sarah's heart thudded erratically, drowning out the chants still reverberating in her mind. She couldn't see anything, only an endless, dark expanse. "Where are we?" A woman's voice echoed from somewhere in the suffocating void. It sounded small, lost. Panic seeped into Sarah, and she turned, catching a glimpse of the librarian's silhouette. "We're still here," the librarian called back, her voice steady like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. "Stay close, hold on to each other." And in that moment, a sliver of light shot through the darkness, sharp and glaring. They squinted against the brightness, and as their eyes adjusted, a new world unfurled before them. It was a twisted version of the library they had known, enormous shelves lined with books, their spines cracked and worn, but the titles were all wrong, scratched out and replaced with hieroglyphs and symbols. The familiar contours of the library morphed into something sinister, each shadow twisting unnaturally. "What is this place?" murmured the young man, his earlier curiosity now draped in fear. The librarian stepped forward, her brows knitted with determination. It's a mirror. A reflection of the truth we've hidden from." She looked up to see the others shivering with uncertainty. "This is where knowledge meets consequence. We must search for answers for the truth." Before she could say more, the shadows coalesced, forming shapes that became figures from the books, pale and hollow-eyed. They twisted and writhed, their faces locked in expressions of eternal suffering. Sarah felt a chill coil around her neck, her breath turning shallow. A figure reached out, its finger bending toward them like a wilted flower. "You dared to summon us," it whispered, a voice that scraped against the very walls of reality. "What truth do you seek? Are you prepared to bear the weight of what you find?" "Stop!" Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the chill as she stepped forward. "We want knowledge, not pain. We didn't come to summon you." The librarian stepped beside her, a fierce protectiveness radiating from her. "No one here seeks to harm you. We don't understand what this place is, but we will not be cowed by fear." The air shifted, vibrating with an unsettling energy. The figures transformed into twinkling dots, swirling rapidly, their whispers intensifying, warping into an ominous harmony. Panic surged through the group. "Let us go back. This was a mistake," someone yelled, frantically grasping for the shadows of the real world. "Maybe they are the key," the librarian said, defiance shimmering in her eyes. "We need to confront them. We didn't ask for power, we only want to know." As the librarian's words echoed in the darkness, the swirling shapes halted, revealing fragmented glimpses of memory, scenes of laughter, betrayal, moments lost to time. Each vivid color teased from the shadows, holding the weight of centuries. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. We're not prepared for this. What if it destroys everything we know? Then we must find another way, the librarian insisted, her voice steadier now, almost a song amid the chaos. If we unravel the darkness, we can reclaim the light. With the figures still swirling around them, Sarah felt the core of her resolve hardening, driven by a need to understand not just the library's mysteries but the fragments of her own past that were tangled within them. What if we don't like what we uncover? She whispered, the doubt gnawing at her. Knowledge isn't always what we expect. But sometimes, it is the only way to break free. Just then, another shadow lunged, spiraling toward them with a sound like shattering glass. Are you ready to face it? The figure's voice cut deep, leaving an echo that would haunt them long after. As their eyes widened, a new sensation gripped Sarah, one of fear laced with a thrill of uncharted potential. The question stared back at them, a swirling prism of possibility. What truth would they uncover? All threads of time seemed to hang in the waiting silence, each pulse heavy with fate. And as they steeled themselves for what lay ahead, a chilling realization crept over them. Was the awakening only beginning, or had they already awakened something they couldn't control? The shadows pulsed with a life of their own, swirling dangerously close, their whispers morphing into a deafening crescendo. Sarah's heart raced as she grasped the librarian's arm, her knuckles pale and clammy. What if they're angry? What if we made a mistake? The librarian, undeterred, met Sarah's gaze, her eyes fierce with determination. Knowledge comes at a cost. We have to keep going. We can't turn back now. Before they could decide, the shattered glass sound returned, a sudden cry piercing the dark. The figures lunged, their hollow eyes narrowing, sharp fingers curling like talons. Fear gripped Sarah's throat, choking her vocal cords. Remember who we are, the librarian shouted, thrusting her hand forward. The figures halted, momentarily caught in the librarian's fiery resolve. Shock rolled like thunder among the group. How do we know it will work? Whispered the young man, his voice cracking. They look like ghosts of our failures, our pasts. A flicker of anger ignited within Sarah, pushing her own fear aside. But if we face them, if we confront what we buried, maybe we can reclaim not just information, but who we are. The moment hung heavy with tension, the figures waiting, a hopeful tension that felt like a tightrope strung taut. The librarian took a deep breath and took a step forward. What do we need to do to give you peace? The void silenced, the figures still morphing into grotesque shapes, their faces flickering like candle flames. You wish to know pain? One figure voiced, its tone echoing with a hollow brevity. You wish to know joy? Sarah felt an overwhelming rush of memories flood her mind, faces she held so dearly, moments that felt lost forever. Both, she spoke, her voice trembling yet growing in strength. Both are part of understanding. The figures shifted, a ripple spreading through their spectral forms. To know pain is to relate to the suffering of others. To know joy is to cherish every fleeting moment. What does it mean? Someone asked, the question barely escaping with breath. A figure stepped forward, its gaze penetrating, a brief flash of clarity cutting through the haze. Your truths are marked in the pages of choices, etched in the ink of your fears. The librarian nodded, adrenaline pulsing, a newfound understanding dawning. We need to confront our past. Share our stories. Only then can we uncover the secrets embedded within this library. Together, Sarah echoed, her voice stronger. We can't look away. Suddenly, the shadows shifted violently, transforming into a chaotic cyclone. Visions exploded before them, conflicts, whispered regrets, moments of despair. Each image was sharper than any blade, slicing through the calm, vacuous air. Don't give in! The librarian cried, raising her hands as if to contain the chaos. Share your stories. No matter how dark. One by one, voices began to rise. A tale of betrayal. A story of unrequited love. A recollection of loss. Each account formed an invisible thread binding them closer. With each shared secret, the figures shimmered, flickers of humanity breaking through their tortured expressions. The crowd began to huddle closer, igniting a chain reaction of confessions. I lost my brother, a sob broke through, raw and untouched. My parents. I couldn't save them, another whispered, tears mingling with shadows. The darkness pulsed angrily, responding to the tide of emotion. To share is to reveal is to unearth, the hollow figure hissed ominously. But be warned, the truth can sting. What's the price? Asked Sarah, dread pooling in her gut. Only when the final page has turned will you know. The balance of light and dark will weigh heavy upon you. Suddenly, the air thickened, silencing the confessions mid-sentence. The figures began to dissolve into shimmering specks, the air vibrating with potential promises. Then, stark clarity descended. One final truth lies within, the fading echoes warned. And you alone must draw it out. Panic spiked as a new shadow stirred, larger and more imposing than the rest. Sarah's breath hitched. What awaited them was still cloaked in darkness. Are you brave enough to face your own truth? It whispered, its voice soaked in shadows. As the flickers of light dimmed around them, dread clamped down on Sarah. Would they unravel their pasts fully, or would the cost be too high? The smothering question lingered in the darkness. What truths waited to be unearthed, and would they shatter everything they once believed? The shadows clawed at the air, thick and alive, vibrating with an energy that felt almost sentient. Sarah's mind raced, heart drumming a frantic beat against her ribcage. The question hung like a weighted dark promise of answers veiled in desperation. The imposing shadow towered above, its presence suffocating, demanding attention. Sarah felt the shivers of fear creeping up her spine. What truth? She stammered, voice barely a whisper. The shadow twisted and coiled like a serpent, revealing a face that bore no features but held the essence of 1,000 lost regrets. The truth you seek lies within your heart, and it demands sacrifice. Sacrifice? The murmurs rippled through the crowd, uncertainty mixing with horror. They looked around, exchanging glances filled with dread. Every choice has a consequence, it hissed, advancing closer, its voice oozing like fog around them. To dive into your past, you must uproot the deep-seated fears you cling to. It is a journey of nightmares and revelations. The librarian, burning with resolve, stepped forward, eyes locked on the shadow. We've come this far. We want to retreat now. We deserve the truth. Each of us does. The shadow's laughter echoed, a chilling sound that made the air thrum uncomfortably. Deserve? Entitlement is a quest for the naive. Are you prepared to embrace the darkness? Sarah felt the gaze of the others on her, the weight of their fears, hopes, and failures intertwining. She could sense their collective uncertainty like a thick fog. We're here together, she said, urgency slicing through her fear. If we face it as one, we can share the burden. You can share the pain? The shadow interrupted, and a cruel smile flickered across its intangible face. You can shoulder another's grief? You can erase what's been written? One man shouted from the back, his voice wobbling. What if we can't handle it? What if facing it tears us apart? A chill danced through the group as the shadow loomed closer, its form shifting. To embrace knowledge is to wrestle with the demons of the past. Do you truly wish to unearth what you have buried so deep? Each word echoed like a war drum in Sarah's ears. She raised her chin, clenching her fists. Yes. I want to know. We want to know. The warmth in her chest surged, lending her the courage she desperately needed. The shadow paused, their tension thickening. Very well, it whispered. But remember, the deepest cuts come from the sharpest truths. The figures lurking around them united, shifting from grotesque forms to familiar faces, each one tied to a story, a past life that had been left unfinished. The flickering light shows painted memories of sorrow and joy, blending shame with resilience. Suddenly, a woman emerged from the crowd, tears streaking down her face, her voice trembling with raw vulnerability. I never told anyone that I gave up on my dreams, that I lost myself in the process. The light flickered more intensely as she spoke, illuminating her sorrow. Another voice joined. I thought I could escape my childhood, but it haunts me every day. I ran from it, but it's trapped inside me. With each revelation, the shadow twisted in overwhelming power, reacting to the flood of emotional honesty. Truths mean nothing if they are buried in silence. It bellowed, and the air buzzed with electricity. In a sudden flash, Sarah felt a rush, a wild moment where the boundaries blurred, and she experienced the collective weight of sorrow. Each pain echoed in her chest, an ache that resonated beyond words. Their histories connected, the library fading, as if they were spiraling into a void that demanded their deepest burdens. Sarah gasped, her voice rising amidst the chaos swirling around her. We're stronger than this. We are more than our fears. But the darkness didn't back down. It engulfed them further, relentless. To conquer this darkness, you must face the truth lurking in your own heart, or perish in the shadows feeding upon your regrets. Panic surged through the depths of Sarah's soul. Which truth? She called out, desperately searching the enigmatic figure's eyes. What must we face to escape? Silence fell like a hammer, heavy and tangible. The shadow loomed larger. Only the final page can reveal the secret. Are you all willing to endure the cost? As the breath of fear and anticipation swirled around them, they stood at the precipice, confronted with a choice. Do they dive deeper into the chaos or cling to the safety of silence? And then came the haunting whisper, cruel and undeniable. Can you pay the price? The shadow expanded, pulsating ominously as if it thrived on their fear. Each person felt the stakes heighten, the whisper of dread intertwining with an unyielding urge to uncover the truth. It loomed, an oppressive force demanding their surrender to the inevitable. Gather your courage, it intoned, its voice like ice slicing through a warm summer breeze. For the horrors you conceal will writhe awake, and the light you crave hinges on honesty's sword. The room began to tremble, shelves groaning under the weight of everything they had hidden from themselves. In an instant, the flickering lights dimmed to near darkness, brightened only by the scalding glow of guilt and shame that flared around them, igniting their scattered memories. Sarah's heart raced. She could feel the collective pulse of the group, fear mixed with determination, spinning a fragile strength. Together! She screamed, trying to pierce the suffocating despair wrapping around them. We do this together. But the shadow chuckled, a horrifying sound laced with malice. Unity? Such a fragile illusion. I can tear you apart with a single truth. Who among you is brave enough to step forward? A man with haunted eyes took a hesitant step, trembling as the spectral spotlight focused solely on him. I will, he croaked, voice barely echoing above the suffocating silence. I never wanted to believe I was the reason my family fell apart. The shadows rippled, feeding off his anguish. Unburden yourself. What truth calls from your heart? The shadow urged, its presence vibrant with hungry anticipation. I drove them away. I chased my ambitions, thinking I'd make them proud. But instead, I just made them lonely. Pain cracked his voice, cracking the facade he had built. The moment he spoke, the shadows hissed, swirling like a tempest ready to devour. Sarah felt the sensation of something shifting in her chest. She shared the weight of his regret, an echo of her own fears rising like bile in her throat. You are strong! She called to him, desperation lacing her plea. You can face this. We believe in you. The air pulsed with tension as others began to stir. A woman stepped forward, pale-faced but resolute. I was ashamed of my past. I have never shared how I hurt others, thinking I'd be rejected. But now, I want to break free. A flicker of illumination broke from the shadow, revealing a moment of clarity among the swirling chaos. Truth spills out like ink, it whispered ominously. And the pages of your lives will bleed. One by one, others began to share their own wounds, tears falling like rain on paper under the slow pull of gravity. With every confession, the shadow shrank slightly but flickered with an unsettling glee, as if enjoying the spectacle of their suffering. Even as the darkness recoiled, Sarah felt a part of herself starting to fragment. Thoughts tumbled and churned, the echoes of buried memories clawing their way to the surface. She had to admit her own truth, or be devoured by silence. The truth threatened to swallow her whole. What about me? she asked, voice trembling. What do I have to face? A sudden stillness settled over the room, the air cool as an unseen watchful gaze turned to her. You, Sarah, have always known. But denial is a powerful foe. The walls around her pulsated with memories, swirling in a kaleidoscope of color and anguish. They took form, surrounding her in vivid clarity, faces she had tried to forget, and moments she'd wished away. An image of a young girl flashed by, full of dreams and possibilities, her dreams silenced by the weight of others' expectations. A past sadness consumed her thoughts. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. Suddenly her voice broke out, soaring above the chorus of shadows. But I have to believe. I have to reclaim what was lost, even if it scares me. The shadow quivered, its form growing erratic, reacting violently to her defiance. It roared, the price is steep, child. Do you dare take the leap? It left Sarah breathless, hanging in the visceral air of uncertainty. The crowd leaned in, the desperation palpable. One question rang in the silence that followed her words: what would she lose in the face of truth? Are you ready to pay it? The shadow challenged, its voice now a sinister snarl wrapped in sweet promises. The air crackled with uncertainty, and Sarah felt a heavy decision settling deep within her. She didn't just stand for herself, she stood for them all. The price felt too high, but what if they could transform their grief into something powerful? As she stood on the edge of revealing all, the question echoed hauntingly one last time: will you be brave enough to unlock what lies within? The silence that followed Sarah's declaration grew heavier, thicker than the shadow that loomed over them. Its dark tendrils writhed energetically, seeking to pull her back into the suffocating depths. Panic slithered through her, coiling tightly around her heart. What if confessing meant losing everything she had left? Suddenly, the air sparked, and the memories surged forward. She saw her younger self, trying desperately to fit into a world of expectations. No! You control your own fate! Sarah screamed inwardly, grappling with the shadows that sought to embed themselves into her psyche. Their whispers became deafening, drowning out her resolve as they clawed at her insecurities. Face it! The shadow hissed. Your dreams? They were never worth the pain you spread, just vanity cloaked in desire. Others in the room shuffled uncomfortably, their eyes darting. They could feel the shift in energy, the battle unfolding within Sarah. A man shook his head, as if trying to dispel the creeping darkness. You can't let it win! He shouted, the urgency in his voice cutting through the haze of despair. The shadow's forms shivered but remained flared against them, brandishing truths like swords. We all have our secrets, it taunted. But how many are willing to shed the poison of their lies? Enough! A resolute voice sliced through the turmoil. It was the woman who had spoken earlier. She stepped forward, emboldened. We're not here to cower in the shadows. Now is our time to fight back. The crowd shifted toward her, inspired. For the first time, they all felt a glimmer of unity. Sarah's heart stirred with a flicker of hope. They weren't just a collection of fears, they were a collective force. The air vibrated with new energy as Sarah felt more emboldened. Together! She cried, a spark igniting her courage. Together, we can reveal the darkness for what it is! But just as the momentum gained, the shadow screeched, twisting in agony, or was it fury? Fools! The light makes shadows all the more hungry. Your truths are a banquet designed to keep you shackled. A rush of wind flattened against their backs, reminding them of the very real threat they faced. What do we do? A voice whispered, uncertainty trembling within it. Believe! Sarah shouted, heart racing as she pressed forward. We have to unearth our truths. Every confession, every secret, it's a light to drive it back. I'll go first. The shadow reacted, convulsing wildly. Your truth? It mocked. How delightful! Go on, child, unravel yourself. As Sarah stood there, exposed and trembling, flashes of memories filled her mind again. She saw the moments of silence after family dinners, the missed phone calls, the tears shed in isolation. Pain surged up, burning her throat. But those moments, they shaped me. What ugly truth hides within? Speak it! The shadow growled, hunger glistening in the darkness. With every ounce of will, she summoned her voice. I wanted everyone to be happy, but I lost myself in their expectations. I've stifled my own dreams, I've suffocated my spirit for years. The room fell silent as every pair of eyes widened, some faces reflecting shared pain and recognition. The shadow hissed, flaring back in satisfaction. Ah, the first wound spills forth. What now, brave souls? How does your honesty free or bind you? Sarah felt a weight lift, but it was quickly replaced by a stark realization that these spoken truths would illuminate the room in unwelcome ways. We need our truths to shatter this darkness, she said urgently to the group, searching their eyes. Will you dare to stand alongside me? A young man stepped forward, his voice steadier than Sarah expected. I lost my brother because I didn't speak up. I thought my silence would protect him. He swallowed hard, tears glistening. But it only left me haunted. The shadow recoiled slightly, but its presence pulsed slowly again. Delicious! A banquet indeed. What will you offer me next? The atmosphere thickened with expectation, the tense air hanging precariously as more people began to move forward, each bearing their anguish like a torch. Share! Sarah urged, catching a glimpse of resolve reflecting in the faces of her companions. The collective power was rising as more stories began to surface, raw and fragile, filling the room with the sharp sting of honesty. Just as the shadow wailed in a tumult of anger, flickers of light burst forth from their confessions, blinding and fierce. But would it be enough? What will the truth cost you? A voice cracked amidst the chaos. And when the smoke clears, will you recognize yourselves at all? The question hung high, suspended in the air, resonating with the weight of their journey. What lay in wait beyond this tumultuous battle? Would resilience break the chains that bound them? Sarah, heart pounding, sensed the climax approaching. Could they reclaim their lives in the wake of such brutal honesty? The battle for their souls was just beginning. Amid the bright flashes of confessions, the shadow danced wildly in the air, howling in rage. You think you can defeat me with mere words? Your truths are poison to my existence, but what use are they in this world of shadows? They'll only crumble beneath your weak resolve. With the shadow thrumming in tremors of anger, Sarah could feel the energy shift. The confessions were merging into a symphony of voices, each resonating with pain, yet somehow melodic. We're stronger together! She shouted over the chaos, her voice fierce yet trembling. A woman stepped beside Sarah, trembling but determined. I once thought power lay in silence, she began, her voice breaking slightly. But I've learned the hard way that it suffocates. I lost myself pretending everything was fine. I've ignored my needs to keep other people comfortable. Her hands trembled, lifting as if presenting her truth like a fragile gift. I buried my emotions deep, afraid of being a burden. A heavy breath hitched in her throat. But I refused to stay quiet anymore. As the words spilled forth, the shadow shrieked, recoiling as its tendrils flailed wildly. How delightful! More feasts for my appetite. Is that the best you can do? Another voice rose, steady and courageous. I am more than my failures. I've let fear dictate my life for too long. The young man who had first spoken stepped closer, his posture solidifying. I've held myself captive to guilt, but I want to break free. I know I deserve to be happy. The air buzzed with anticipation as stories unfurled like a blossoming flower. Each confession unleashed sparks that danced, lighting the darkness a little more. The shadow twisted, its form contorting, visibly weakened. You think bravery will save you? A pathetic notion. It seethed, but underneath the bravado, its voice wavered. Encouraged by the momentum, more voices joined the chorus. I hid behind laughter, refusing to address my pain, yelled a tall woman, tears streaming down her cheeks like rivers of release. We survived by shutting down our emotions, someone else added, urgency pouring from their words. The room was thick with mounting energy. But we're here to change that. As the collective manifested their truths, the power surged through Sarah, igniting something deep within. The shadow began to dim, its form flickering like a dying flame. Enough! It howled, scrambling backward. You underestimate my hunger for despair. It is not fear that binds you but your desire to play it safe. Look closer, what shadows can't you face? The energy twisted again, wrapping its dark fingers around Sarah. A pang of doubt gnawed at her heart. What if revealing their truths only dug them deeper into the abyss? Do not waver! A voice broke through the haze, a frail older man stepping forward, eyes aflame with defiance. I lost everyone I loved because I clung to secrecy. But I finally understand. Truth, however painful, brings restoration. It paves new paths. With renewed strength, the crowd surged forward, caught up in the tidal wave of raw vulnerability. We dare to confront you. Our truths are our weapons, our light. They shouted in unison, voices rising in a crescendo. Fools! The shadow screeched, but its form crumbled further, shriveling away beneath the onslaught of fiery confessions. As the air thickened with intensity, an explosion of luminescence erupted from the collective whispers, momentarily blinding everyone in the room. A roaring sound surrounded them, a powerful echo of their own strength. But as the light reached its peak, a chilling revelation drenched the jubilance in ice. Were they merely illuminating their past, or awakening a deeper darkness? The shadows, though fractured, regrouped and coiled themselves around the edges of their sanctuary. Just as hope surged, dread crept back in a darkness lurking still, preparing for another assault. What if the shadows only grow larger? Sarah gasped as unease echoed through her voice. What if this only draws out their fury? The flickering lights began to dim, uncertainty pooling in the space between their revelations. Would their candor invite further danger? As tension hung thick in the air, a new question lingered over them, amplifying their anxiety. Did they have the strength to face the shadows awaiting them, or were they simply prolonging the inevitable? The battle was far from over, and they could feel it in their bones. The confrontation reached a fever pitch as the shadow writhed, but with each chant of their truths, it weakened. The flickering light revealed faces, not just of those present, but echoes of lost companions, their hopes intertwining with the burden of regrets that anchored them. Together! Sarah's voice soared, desperation turning into a call to arms. This is our moment! The words resonated, filling her chest with power as everyone pressed forward, their shared pain igniting something they had never felt before, unity. The shadow let out a howl of rage, dark tendrils recoiling. What foolishness! You pitiful souls think your truths can overpower me? But each confession cast light on hidden fears, transforming the shadow's ferocity into chaotic vulnerability. We refuse to be bound, shouted the man who had shared about his brother. We accept the hurt. It won't define us. Cracks appeared in the shadow, rupturing it from within like glass shattering under pressure. No! The shadow cried, a cacophony of despair and fury. You cannot hope to suppress me. I am the past unforgiven mistakes that haunt. Then let us embrace those mistakes. The librarian stepped forward again, her voice unwavering. To truly heal, we must acknowledge the pain. Let it transform, not control us. With those words, the crowd erupted into an eruption of shared sorrow and strength. Each name associated with each confession began to float around them, vivid memories swirling in vibrant hues, a bittersweet tapestry binding them together. A woman looked directly at Sarah, her tears reflecting both joy and sorrow. I put on a brave face while my heart ached with chaos inside. I'm no longer ashamed to admit it. I now choose to show my heart instead of hiding it. With every utterance, the light intensified, blasting back the darkness. The shadows ricocheted like errant prey fighting against a flood of truth. Sarah could feel the energy pulsating, an unseen force wrapping around her until she understood. They weren't just fighting against the shadow, they were illuminating the very essence of their souls, reclaiming the truths that shaped them. The shadow quaked. You think you can stand together forever? Your unity is a fleeting illusion. That may be true, Sarah called back defiantly, but today we fight as one. A moment is enough to break the chains. As she spoke, the shadow began to fray, tendrils breaking off, dissolving into the air like vapor. Waves of light surged toward them, spilling energy into the space as Sarah and the others pressed onward. One final shadow lunged forward, but in that moment of hesitation, "You have no hold on us!" Sarah screamed. Their unified voices harmonized, exploding into a kaleidoscope of colors that washed over the shadow, illuminating even its darkest corners. Every fear they had faced cascaded forward like a flood. "Feel the courage! Feel the liberation!" The librarian's voice rang out, blending in with theirs, anchoring the community they formed. "Truth is strength," she proclaimed, as the last shreds of shadow crumbled into stardust like echoes in the universe. In the aftermath, the library transformed into a sanctuary of light. The air sparkled, heavy with possibility, filled with fresh breaths of freedom. Memories no longer haunted them, they stood as proof of survival and growth. As the dust settled, the group formed a circle, hands clasping firmly, connecting them. Relief washed over Sarah, her heart still racing but now calm, grounded in the harmony of their experiences. One by one, tears streamed down their faces, glistening like rain beneath the sunlight. They weren't just individuals anymore, they represented every voice that had long been swallowed by fear. "We did it!" Sarah whispered, overwhelmed by emotion. The librarian smiled softly, a proud look crossing her features. "This is only the beginning. The Book of Psalms will always call unto its readers. Each journey is a step towards transformation." As the crowd began to disperse, Sarah felt an undeniable yearning to return, to keep learning, exploring. They embraced one another, feeling the warmth of sound and expression wrapping around them like an unbreakable chain. "Let us meet again," she suggested, a spark igniting in her chest. "Let us continue to uncover our truths, because there is so much more to discover." As they walked out into the soft light of the world outside, each face reflected hope. The library stood as a sacred space of connection, filled with their stories, now woven into something beautiful. And just as the dusk settled in the sky with hues of orange and pink, Sarah glanced back at the library, knowing that every time they opened those pages, something magnificent awaited. It was the end of one chapter, and the beginning of another. Now, if you've loved this journey and want to join us for more, you need to subscribe now. Don't let this moment slip away. Smash that like button to help spread this incredible transformation. I want to hear about your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions, your theories about the untold potential that lies ahead. And please, don't wait even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see how powerful truth can be. Your support means everything, and together we can create a community that embraces every story.